וכולם מקבלים עליהם, ומלכות שמיים, וכולם מקבלים עליהם, ומלכות שמיים, וכולם מקבלים עליהם, ומלכות שמיים, ומלכות שמיים, וכולם מקבלים עליהם,
Shalom, Talmidim. Zman le'ivrit. Hello, students. It's time for Hebrew. I'm glad you've decided to join me once again. Today is our fourth lesson, which means that we have been studying Hebrew together for 1 month. Kol hakavod. Good for you. Today our Torah portion name is Vayera. Let's look to the top of the page under the heading Vayera, Genesis 18:1 through 22:24. The first set of words we have, which mean and appeared to him, are pronounced Vayera elav. You will notice Vayera is also the name of our Torah portion. Next we have the name of the Lord pronounced Adonai. By the tall trees of Mamre is pronounced Be'elonei Mamre. Continuing to our fourth line, and he was sitting, Vehu Yoshev. At the opening of the tent, Petach ha'ohel. In the heat of the day, Kachum hayom. Were you able to follow along and sound out your words? I hope so. I would like to take a moment to point out something about the Hebrew language. Hebrew is composed of various roots. They structure different ways to form words and different verb forms. Let's take a look at the challenge teaching number 1. It states, this portion name is very similar to the name of the second portion in Exodus. Write out both names in Hebrew and their English meanings. Fill in the blanks below to tell who appears to whom. You can dig out the answers to these questions by the study of this week's Torah portion and by the study of Torah portion Vayera, which is lesson number 14. The author of this Hebrew study workbook has done a very wise thing by pointing out to us from the very beginning that Hebrew is a root-based language. If we can learn to memorize and recognize roots, we will be able to learn and recognize a whole variety of different words based on these roots. So this is very important. To solidify this concept, let's look at number 2 in the challenge teachings. The question is, what was Avram doing at the time of the appearance? We can see from our fourth line of vocabulary words that he was sitting. Vehu Yoshev. This is another root. The word Yoshev, Yud, Shin, Vet, provides the root for sitting or settling or even dwelling. So the second half of challenge teaching number 2, which asks, which other portion name in Genesis is similar to this verb? Hint, it is sometimes translated, and he settled, or and he dwelt. That comes from the Torah portion in Genesis 37 verse 1 through 40 verse 2. The name of the Torah portion is actually Vayeshev. Vayeshev means and he dwelt. Do you remember last week how we spoke of the mem preceding words to mean the word from? Here we have a second example of a prefix. The vav in front of any word means and. It's part of our Torah portion name, Vayera. Look at line 1 of our vocabulary. Vayera elav, and appeared to him. The vav is acting as the word and. We find the conjunction appearing again in the fourth line of our vocabulary. Vehu Yoshev, and he was sitting, or and he sat. Let's go back to the very first lesson that we had, lesson 1, entitled Bereshit. Did you get this answer correct on the challenge teachings number 4 from that lesson? The challenge teachings number 4 in lesson 1 ask, how do you say and in Hebrew? Since we hadn't covered this topic yet, I just wanted to go back and review it quickly so that you could possibly fill in the correct answer if you missed it the first time. In Bereshit, on the bottom line of our vocabulary, it says, Ve'et ha'aretz. Now we know what the vav before et ha'aretz means. It means and. So therefore the words Ve'et ha'aretz mean and the earth. Beseder? Okay, do you understand? Now we have learned 2 prefixes. Mem before a word means from, and vav before a word means and. Let's return to our lesson, Vayera, lesson 4. Let's look at our left-hand page. Let's see if we can find the first verse of Vayera, Genesis 18:1, in the Torah scroll. Do you remember the hint that I gave you? That a new Torah portion always begins with a paragraph start? If so, you will notice that finding this week's first verse is not a difficult task. Today there is only one new paragraph start in our column of the Torah scroll. And so looking at the new paragraph start, we find Vayera elav. Follow along. Put your finger on the Torah scroll on your left-hand page. You follow along the Hebrew words as I read. Let's begin again. Vayera elav Adonai be'elonei mamre vehu yoshev petach ha'ohel ki chom hayom. Did you follow along? If you did, kol hakavod. Good for you. If not, don't worry. We will continue to take baby steps toward learning Hebrew, and before you know it, not only will you be able to follow along, but you will be able to pronounce every word of the Hebrew. You will be able to sound them out and recognize their roots. Okay, students, time is up. I have to leave you again for another week, but I look forward to being with you again. So study hard, 10 minutes a day, and I'll see you next week. Litraot.